What's going on, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. Thanks for hanging out, and today we're going to be talking about more budget cards. This is part 6, talking about EDH cards under $1, and I already have part 7 and part 8 planned out, so look forward to those in the future. I really enjoy these videos because it gives me an opportunity to share cards that are definitely on the more affordable side, and just proof that you can definitely build budget commander decks and they can still be good. So let's hop into it. The first card I want to talk to you guys about is Icon of Ancestry, and I really enjoy this card. Immediately as I saw this card, I was like, this card is gonna be like a house, and I feel like a lot of times, a lot of the the core sets, I feel like tend to go and fall under the radar, where a lot of people don't tend to pay attention to those sets as much as what it feels like, and a lot of like really awesome cards like this just kind of, you know, fall through the cracks. But I really enjoy Icon of Ancestry. It is definitely a great card for tribal decks. Very affordable in terms of mana cost wise, being that it's only 3 mana for this artifact. You choose a creature type and then those get +1/+1, which is honestly good in and of itself, and if you had stopped there I would have been pretty happy. But you get this tacked on ability to this, which says for 3 you can tap it to look at the top 3 cards of your library, to reveal a creature card of the chosen type, and you put them into your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Now, what I will say about this card is I don't think it goes in necessarily every tribal deck. I think this card goes in decks where you really truly have the majority of the cards you have are creatures. The reason I say that is because then you're pitching away a lot of instant sorceries, other sorts of things that you might need. So I think if you're running a deck that has the majority of creatures, I think this card works really well in it. Or if you don't plan necessarily on always activating that ability, or you plan on doing it when you're kind of desperate for creatures. With that being said, I do really enjoy this card. I don't run in all of my tribal decks, but I do really like it. Okay, the next card is Zulaport Cutthroat. This card is a little bit more than $1. I think it's like $1.25 or so. But nonetheless, I think this card is really strong. It does say another creature you control, so that's something that I would just keep in the back of your head, that it doesn't impact other people's boards. Blood Artist is the similar equivalent of this card, but Blood Artist is a little bit more expensive. For me, it's not a matter of one or the other, it's about running both. I do really enjoy both cards. I will say Zulaport works really well if you have maybe a lot of tokens, or a lot of times your creatures are being sacrificed, so I think in like a Marin type of decks. Anything where you're, you know, killing your creatures, this card just works really well. I really enjoy Zulaport. I think it's a great card. It's also got an awesome name. Okay, the next card is Tatyova, Benthic Druid. This card, Druid. I cannot say that word. You ever have words that you literally cannot say? Not Dryad. I can't say this word. I want to say droid like Star Wars droids. I can't say this for some reason. Anyways, this card just got reprinted in Mythic Boosters, which is really awesome, which dropped down the price completely, which is wonderful. So it's making this card a budget alternative. Not like it was very expensive before, but it did make it under $1, which is super rad. I love this card. I think it works really good as a commander. I also think just in any type of green-blue decks, this is a really good card to run. Everland enters the battlefield, you get to draw a card and you gain a life. I really like Tatyova. Like, she's just such a, like, do you ever look at cards and you're like, this is a well-rounded, fair card? That's how I feel about her. I really enjoy anything where I get to draw cards and gain life. And what I like about this card too is it's not even just your first land, so if you play multiple lands in a turn, you do get the ability to draw multiple cards and gain life, which is so awesome. So Tatyova, great card. Super happy to see this card as a reprint. Okay, the next card I have on my list is Corpse Knight. I really like this card. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses a life. This is kind of your classic Orzhov kind of sort of deal, I would say. Orzhov is kind of known for doing things like that, and Corpse Knight is no exception. I really like this card. I think, again, I'm just picturing this in just a really classic Orzhov kind of build, and, you know, whenever you have creatures into the battlefield, everyone loses life. You do not get to gain the life. This is not one of those cards, but there are cards that do the same thing, or do very similar things where you do get to gain life. I just run all of them. It's not a matter of one or the other, it's I run all of them, and Corpse Knight is a really good card. I like it a lot. The next card, this card is a little bit more than $1. I think it's like $1.15 or something like that, and that is Hammer of Purphoros. I'm a huge fan of Hammer. There's a lot of abilities like this where they just give your creatures haste, which I really, really enjoy. Honestly, it also has this other ability stapled onto it, which I have used this ability, not very frequently. This is not an ability that I go for a lot of the time, but if there is an instance where I do need to, I will, like, at times that I've been desperate for creatures or things like that, I've definitely done this ability. But I run this card in Omnath and I really, really enjoy it. Just giving your creatures haste sometimes can just truly make or break a game, so I really like this card. Really, really good budget card. This card I'm genuinely surprised that it is so cheap, and I don't really know 100% why this card is... I don't get it. I'm very confused. But Grim Haruspex, I really like this card a lot. I think this card is pretty stupid, if we're going to be completely honest, and I don't know how this card is not more expensive. This card belongs in just, like, so many different things. So you can morph it. I like that it's got the morph cost of 1, so if you, say you just have, like, 1 extra mana laying around, and then next turn you have the opportunity to unmorph it, that's really good. Or you can just hard cast it. It doesn't really matter, to be completely honest. And then when another non-token creature you control dies, you draw a card. There's no downside to this. It does say another, so it doesn't count for itself, but honestly, it doesn't matter. It's also a 3/2, which is good. Getting the chance to draw cards, at that you can, like, anytime you draw a card whenever something dies is really good. It does say non-tokens, so something that I would be mindful of if you are running this in, like, a lot of token strategies, but honestly, I don't really think that matters. I think if you're running, like, again, Marin, like, any turret sort of, like, graveyard type thing, which is really, really good. I really like this card. I honestly, this is one of my, like, can't believe it's not butter. Can't believe it's not, you know, not more than $1. Card's great. Okay, the next card we have is Workshop Assistant for my friends who are building any type of artifact deck, to be completely honest. I think you can definitely spare a spot for Workshop Assistant in there, because honestly, this card is truly just a meat shield. Like, it's literally meant to die so that you can get something else back. Yeah, there's really not a whole lot to say. It's a good card. It's very, very cheap, and it's only 3 mana, and for artifacts, assuming you're running a ton of mana rocks and stuff, you just dump this card down, it dies, it does its thing, you get to bring something back. Good card. Cool, the next card is Nevermore. Nevermore is incredibly powerful for my people who want kind of sort of some removal, I would say. I guess this card is kind of removal. I don't really know, like preventative, maybe a Death and Taxes-y type of card. I really enjoy Nevermore. I have this card in Alila, and I think because I just had one laying around, if I'm going to be completely honest, and I didn't really know what to do with it, so I decided to jam it in that deck. Nevermore is really good for saying no to someone's commander. That's probably one of my favorite things to do, mainly because you don't necessarily know what other cards are going on in someone's deck. Like, I suppose if someone has, like, a win condition in their hand that maybe you bounced or something like that, and you know that, or you know someone has something in their hand because you revealed it, or anything like that, you could definitely name that. But my favorite thing to do in Nevermore is to name someone's commander to really shut them out of the game, force them to remove this before they can play their commander. It's not something that's going to stay on the table all the time by any stretch of the imagination, but I do really like this card. It's only ever been printed in Innistrad, so it's kind of, I think sometimes when cards are only printed once, some people, like, they might not notice them, or they might forget about them, and I think that's the case with this card. I do really enjoy Nevermore. I think it's a good card. The next card that I want to talk about is Disdainful Stroke, which is one of my favorite counter spells. I really like this card. This is for my people who are playing in maybe more aggressive types of EDH situations where the difference between a 2 mana and a 3 mana counter spell truly matter. Disdainful Stroke is a really, really good alternative or a good option for you, because you get to counter something. Now, keep in mind, it does say 4 or greater, so that is your kind of, like, you know, downside, I guess, with it, is it's not going to hit everything, but it can hit creatures, artifact, and, like, it can hit anything of that, which I think is really, really good in this card, which I really like. And again, it is only 2 mana, which I really enjoy, so Disdainful Stroke is a really, really good counter spell. Again, it's not a matter of this or that, it's a matter of just running, you know, both. I like to have a mix of, like, this and then other counter spells that might be 3 mana, but again, if you're in, like, a really, really tight play group where you know, again, the difference between 2 and 3 mana makes a huge difference. This is a really good card. And the last card are for my people who are building flying type of decks that need a little bit more of an Anthem effect, and that is Favorable Winds. I really like Favorable Winds. I run this card in a Leela, and I really like it. Works really, really, really well in that deck. I would say if you're building a Leela, you definitely need this. Also because it triggers off of a Leela, so if you cast one of those on board, you get a 1/1, which becomes a 2/2, which with a Leela is a 3/2, so just saying, synergizes really well with a Leela. I really, really like Favorable Winds. It does only say creatures with flying, so that would be something that I would be mindful of, is that it's only targeting those specific sorts of creatures, but if you're running a deck with all flying anyway, it doesn't really matter. Just kind of a little, like, extra bonus. Again, I think in a Leela decks it works really well, and anything where you're really running flying, where you do want a little bit more of a buff for your creatures. So, guys, that is it. That is it for talking about budget cards. Huge fan of these videos. They're just super fun to film, to talk about cards that are really cheap, to prove that Commander doesn't have to be an expensive format. So like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I'll catch you guys in my next one. Bye.